It begins saying the echoic. Echoic. Took a lot of planning. All right. So, again, to review what we went over in the verbal behavior, an echoic is a type of verbal behavior that is defined by the circumstances under which it occurs and the type of consequence that it produces. So, for an echoic, these things are vocal verbal behavior. Like I mentioned before in the other training, the echoic is the one operant that's an exception as far as like what does the form have to be. Like an echoic is always vocal, otherwise it's motor imitation. And then the behavior is basically vocal imitation, so the looks and sounds the same as what the other person just did. So like bottle, marble, marble, flea town. The strangest words come out when I think so hard. I'm like, what am I gonna say? I could have just looked around the room. I could have been like computer. But flea town. Flea town.
A toxic wasteland.
And then the reinforcer is our old buddy GCR again, which we'll go over that again. But it's generalized conditioned reinforcement. So vocal verbal behavior, that means something that somebody says. It could be a word, it could be a sound, it could be a whole sentence. So while most verbal behavior can be admitted in a variety of modes, echoic behavior is always vocal, like we talked about. The vocal imitation is pretty simple. And then so again with the GCR, but like, hey, it's everywhere. So generalized, meaning that it's not specific, like with a man. With a man, the reinforcement has to be what you asked for. With an echoic, if you say like, give me those, no, that doesn't make any sense. If you said say apple, and then your kid says apple, and you go like, good job, it has nothing to do with the fact that they said with the word apple. It's just like anything that is good. It could be anything. And then we talked about money being a good example of something, a reinforcer that is generalized because it's not specific to a certain need. It's like money will always help you because it can meet a lot of your needs. Same thing with praise, attention, social approval. It's not like you're not kind of like, God, I wish I had some praise. I'm all out of praise. Like praise always is nice. And then condition means that you learned it. You didn't come out of the womb wanting like a pat on wrong because you might need to burp.
You
didn't come out of the womb wanting money, except for maybe Amanda. You didn't come out of the womb wanting someone saying like, I like your t-shirt today.
There's no make.
Yes. It's not like food or water or something like that. And reinforcer, hopefully we know what a reinforcer is. It's something that increases behavior. So it's easiest, just like there's kind of like a simple way to think about it for a man in attack. The other word for an echoic is vocal imitation. And there is this little rule in there. So if my mom says if my mom says, hey, when you see your sister today, tell her to pick up milk because I know she's going to the store, and then 3 hours later I say like, Mom said pick up milk. Like, yeah, it is kind of an echoic, but technically that doesn't count. Like, we're usually talking about right then. Like, I say it, you say it. So that's just like a little thing to know. And just to address this, because sometimes this is confusing for people with echolalia, and so sometimes echolalia is a behavior that a lot of time kids with autism or maybe other diagnoses do, and it's like non-functional repeating of other people's speech. So sometimes if I said like, hi Cooper.
Hi Cooper.
No. Hi Cooper.
Hi Cooper.
No, hi Cooper.
Hi Cooper.
Hi, Hannah. Yeah, so. Or it's like, hey, do you want to play with my phone? Yes or no?
Do you want to play with my phone? Yes or no?
Do you want to play with my phone? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. But maybe she did want to play with the phone. She was just saying the last thing I said.
True.
Or sometimes it's like, which one do you want? Red or blue? Red or blue? Which one do you want? Red or blue? Blue. And like they're not actually using functional behavior to make a choice. They're just saying what you said. So that's echolalia. It can also come in the form of like scripting where they might repeat a phrase from a cartoon or movie or something like that all day. It's kind of like another variation on it. Echoic behavior is not talking about echolalia. Echolalia is a type of echoic behavior, but echoic behavior can also be very good and functional. Like, like if you notice when we were doing like, I want you to man for candy, so I'm holding it and I say candy, and then you say candy, and now I'm prompting you to man. That's like a good kind of echoic behavior. But just to clarify that, because sometimes people don't make that distinction. So if you say like, is a kid echoic, it means will they imitate what you say. If you say do they engage in echolalia, it means do they do that non-functional repeating what people say. So why is the echoic important? In case you didn't notice during the prompts and the man and the tap training, like the echoic saying candy, candy, that was a prompt. So like a kid being echoic is hugely important because that's how you like get to those other operants that are really important. It's almost like a prerequisite. There are other ways to teach those things, but it gets really hard. If a kid can echo you, then like, oh, you've opened a door. It's the same kind of thing with imitation. If a kid can imitate you, you can teach them to do a lot of things by modeling it for them. So as vocal imitation, the echoic behavior is important for the same reasons as imitative behavior. So this helps, imitative behavior helps you learn novel behaviors by just watching people. It helps you learn from your natural environment without having somebody to say like, hey, you want to go to the bathroom, let's teach you how to line up. Physical prompt lining to the bathroom, partial prompt lining to the bathroom, gesture. Like if you can imitate, you just like, there's the bathroom. Look at all those people standing in that line. That person just walked over there. I'm gonna go. Same thing with echoic. Maybe if you're in a class and you have to go to the bathroom and you see another kid walk up to the teacher and say, "Can I go to the bathroom?" So like you do it, but that you're imitating their words. And this learning from the natural environment can be much more rapid than the direct teaching that sometimes we have to do here. And then we kind of talked about it's like observational learning. You just learn by seeing other people do things and then you do it yourself. And this operant transfer is what I talked about with where maybe you learn it as a tact, like somebody says, this is neon green, and then I didn't teach you how to man for it, but if you need it, now you say like, hey, can I have the neon green? There's always a little bit of echoic behavior going on there because, yeah, I tacted it and you're manning for it, but like, why are you saying the same thing? You have to have that like echoic foundation, even though technically that might not be considered echoic, but like it's involved. So teaching echoics is really hard because with the other ones we just use an echoic prompt, and with this one we're like, well, and like we talked about, you can't prompt vocal behavior. Like you can't get in there and move their vocal cords and like move your tongue around. It's impossible. But there are several procedures that you can use to kind of like help move towards this. They may or may not be effective because, like I said, like you can't force it to happen. Obviously, there's kids who people try for years to get them to talk and they never talk. So we can't say like, this is how you teach echoics because we don't know. But there are some procedures, so you might see these types of things in programming for your kiddos. So for kids who are very, very, for one thing, nonverbal and like very minimally vocal, like they don't even say words. Some kids don't echo, but they do say words. Like if you say like, oh, I heard you say color. I heard you say 1, 2, 3 yesterday. Say 1, 2, 3. Say what. You can do it all day, and like they don't do it, but like they did it.
And out of the blue.
Yeah, but there are some kids also who just like they've never said a word. Never heard them say a word. So for these kids, you kind of want to. So what they think happens with like babies. So it's like mom is reinforcing it always. Like all the food comes from mom. All the warmth comes from mom. All the cuddles come from mom. And guess what else comes? Like mom also talks. And like, I shouldn't say mom.
Dads do it too.
I know, it's awful. It's from parents and from like loved ones. So all these good things, and we've talked about pairing before, when you pair two things together, they start to take on the qualities of each other. So like mom is reinforcing, and mom also talks, voice of mom is reinforcing. If a baby makes sounds like mom, those sounds are reinforcing, automatically reinforcing, kind of like if you sing in the shower, it just sounds, hopefully,
really nice.
sounds good for you.
Amazing.
It sounds good, so you do it because you like the way it sounds. Same thing, now that this baby is like, oh, I love it when my mom comes and talks, and now they make the sounds, and now they like those sounds. So we kind of do a similar procedure where it's like you find something that's reinforcing for this kid, and you pair it with other, like, voices of other people. So it's like, if they like tickles, it's like, you pick a word so that you know what you're working with, and it's like, apple, 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 apple. Apple, 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 and you're not even like, it's not a reinforcement, it's not contingent, you're just pairing those things together, and they've done studies where that kid started to say that word, or said it more. And then also, a prerequisite to echoic behavior is just like, making sounds at all. So sometimes if you kids have kids who have very few sounds, like we have one, like KH, if you hear different sounds, then like so a lot of kids will make like a typical stereotypical, like or you know, if you hear different sounds that sound the same, you want to be like yes and reinforcement, because we can't get echoic behavior until we have like some kind of making a sound.
I go to SJ too.
So you start with just reinforce that, and hopefully now you get them. Now they're babbling, and now they're on that path that a baby is on when they're heading towards talking. Hopefully, maybe. Another issue sometimes, and this is an issue with our little lovely preschooler. Well, yeah, the only girl.
G.
Yes, who's wonderful. She has set like, she's seen puzzle at like 1, 2, 3, but like that's it. And she, for her, it's like an attention issue. And this was another study that I saw that they did where it was like they were looking at like, we've gotten so much language. ABA has been so successful with like these 5 kids in the study, and with this one, no, nothing. Like we didn't hardly make any progress. Like let's go back to the drawing board and see. And it was like an attention issue, because just like our girl, it's like she's there not 3% of the time. So of course they're not going to echo you if they're not paying attention to you. So they did a lot of almost like a preference assessment to try a lot of different things that were like, what's something that will like get your attention? And it was different for every kid because it's unique to every individual. And they did well with G, we've been doing like, if you go like this, like you're gonna tickle her, she'll like look and she'll hold it for at least a little bit. The iPad also for her, but for all kids it's different. Like tickles, some kids it's like high five. If you say high five to them, they just have learned that, so they respond to it. It could be anything. It could be like preferred item or whatever, something to get their attention, and then they use that and then present the echoic, and then they started to get it.
Yeah, because she's got words, but if you like listen to some of her little babbles and stuff, I mean, but it's scripted, you know.
Right. And then you can also, we talked about this a little bit before, it's called shaping. So this is for clients who seem like they can kind of imitate, but it maybe is not consistent, and maybe they're actually having difficulty with the actual sound. So what this looks like is you accept what you see, because you have to reinforce something. So you want to teach a kid to say ball, and when you say like say ball, they say like wah. But that's a sound. They get that you're wanting that they say like eh. And so you're like, good job, because sometimes they say something, sometimes they say nothing. So now they're saying something 100% of the time, and like 20% of the time, they're saying the sound buh. So you're like, cool, we're gonna reinforce buh. And you say try again when they don't do it. When they say buh, you say yes! And so now 70% of the time, they say buh. And 30% of the time, they say like bah. Now you change your requirement, like you only reinforce bah, and the other ones you don't, and then you just try to build it up until you get better behavior. This is kind of this is the same idea when we have kids who are doing vocal imitation, and you don't give them a no, really. You just kind of encourage every attempt, and then you give a ton of reinforcement to the really good, high quality ones. So this is kind of a common myth that just because, so if you have a kid who doesn't echo, then these are the types of kids where it's like, we need to pick something other than vocal behavior as a way for you to communicate. We need to give you either pictures or device or signs. And some, like, if you just initially say this, like, hey, we want to teach your kid to use a picture, for a parent who's not familiar with like the whole massive world of ABA and autism, they might say like, but I want my kid to talk. And like, it seems like you've made the choice and it's the one or the other. Like, we're not choosing talking, we're choosing device, or we're choosing signs, and sometimes you get a lot of resistance. And it's like, well, if my kid can use signs, why would they ever talk? And that's not really true. It's not a one or the other choice. It doesn't necessarily impair vocal behavior if you do it right. And this is that same thing with shaping. So say you have a kid who makes very few sounds, might echo, but not very, it's really hard to get them to talk, and you can't understand anything they're saying. So that's not a very effective way to communicate. But you want to teach them that, like, I do something, I get something. You want to teach them that communication behavior, so you have them use pictures. Meanwhile, you're reinforcing all sounds, you're pairing reinforcement with sounds, and you're doing all this stuff to like get the noise going, and all of a sudden, now your kid can kind of like, when you say like, so say they give you the picture for tickles, and you say tickles, and they go, and like, cool, that was a sound, and now you're in that thing. So now, instead of before just giving you the picture got reinforcement, if you hold out and wait for that sound to get reinforcement, you will see more of that sound. So what actually ends up happening is those alternative forms of communication can actually help the verbal behavior, because they teach the kid to persist and try and know that if they do the right behavior, they will get that reinforcement when they're doing those mans. So this, and I just want to throw it in there because this is the best place to kind of put it. If you have a kid that's engages in echolalia, it can be kind of frustrating, because it's like, do you want red or blue? Red or blue? Do you want a medium-sized bubble or a big-sized bubble? Medium bubble, big bubble. And it's like, oh my gosh. Or it's like, hi Amanda, hi Amanda, hi Amanda, hi Amanda. And it can be like, oh my gosh. And then a lot of times what people do is they just give up and leave, like, okay, well, whatever. But if this kid can read, like, a lot of times the really effective thing to do is, so say I want to teach Amanda's engages in echolalia, and I say, hi Amanda.
Hi Amanda.
And I want her to say, hi Hannah. So I just write, hi Hannah. This only works with kids that can read, obviously, or you can teach them that one sight word. So I say like, hi Amanda.
Hi Hannah.
And then she reads it, and like, whoop whoop. And then like, now I erase the last part of my name. Or I do it a couple times, erase the last part, and I just fade it. So like, hi Amanda.
Hi Hannah.
Yeah. And then I erase more, and it only says hi. Hi Amanda.
Hi Hannah.
Yeah. So she did that. So now she's not echoing because all it said was hi. And then I erase, hi Amanda, and I show
Hi,
a blank
Hannah.
board. And then I say like, hi Amanda.
Hi Hannah.
Woo! And then so that can be effective. It only works if I'm trying to say like, do you want to play the dog puzzle or the cat puzzle? And she says dog puzzle, cat puzzle, or cat puzzle. I can't prompt that because I don't know which one she wants to play. But for things like hi and greetings, or like, how are you doing today? Fine. Things like that, it works really well. So what does this mean for you as a therapist? For kids who are minimally verbal, like if you see this kid not making very many sounds, if you hear them make a sound that is not stereotypy, you want to like throw them a party. Because eventually learning to talk is just like what else is our goal? You know what I mean? If that's not what sometimes it's like a high goal, and we also have to be prepared for like, we want to teach them other things that are important too based on their function level. But like, if we can get that off the ground, that's like the big gold mine. For kids who don't attend, you want to look out for those like you have a kid who's really hard to get their attention. This interferes with trials and interferes with everything. So if you can just be a source for like, hey, I did this and she really liked it. Like I used the iPad and she had her eyes glued to it. I went like this, I put the iPad by my head and she stared at me for 5 seconds. That's like, tell the behavior consultant that, because that's like golden information. And then for kids who engage in interfering echolalia, don't be frustrated, just go get a whiteboard if they can read it. So that's that.
I remember in